Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. Today we're going over a few different cards from all across the market. It is still a bit weird. We're in sort of a temporary format up until the release of Crossover Breakers, which is going to shake things up with the release of the Ryziel and Malice archetypes. But even though those decks will take over the competitive scene, there's always support coming out for other themes that people love to play, or certain things that players will try to innovate with and experiment with, causing other price bumps all over the market. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we're taking a look at a new card out of Rage of the Abyss, which is Primite Lordly Load. Now this card is a secret rare out of the newest set, and I think most people see this card as being one of the worst secret rares to pull, since it's support for the Primite theme and there are just so many other good secrets. This theme is supposed to revolve around normal monsters, and no one really expects that much from it. However, it seems that the cards have gotten some attention, not for their regional or YCS tops, but at the local level. There's a pure deck running around that uses the Phantasm Spiral cards from back in Maximum Crisis, along with the Dominus cards and various Floodgates to make a really interesting sort of stun deck, but also players have looked at running one copy of Lordly Load and a Primite Roar to bring out Alexandrite Dragon in Dragon Link, Evil Swarm Heliotrope in Ryziel, and Chamberlain of the Six Samurai in Six Samurais. I think MBT actually had a 10-minute testing video go out showing some of the applications of the Primite cards in various strategies, and it looks pretty cool, so it might be worth looking into as a fun deck at your locals. Now price-wise, it's mainly the secret rare that's jumped. The secrets had fallen to a low of about $2 once the set had kind of settled down. Now, however, we actually see Lordly Load jump up to the $10 mark each. The quarter century version has also gone up quite a bit as well, settling at $15 to $20 before, but now bumping up to $35 each. Definitely some cool cards if you want to try something a little bit spicy at your locals, but you guys will probably want to wait for some of that hype to die down and for the prices to cool off before buying into the engine. Next up, we have Necros of Sophia. So of course we have Necros support confirmed to be coming in Terminal World 2. However, the cards aren't even revealed for the OCG quite yet, so we don't know anything about how good the deck is actually going to be. What we do know, however, is that Necros used to be one of the best decks in the game, so even though they are definitely power crept, there's a small chance that they could be meta relevant once again. Necros of Sophia is something that never saw play back in the day, but I guess is something that players are looking at possibly using now. The main thing is that it's hard to summon, right? Since you have to tribute 3 monsters from hand in order to bring it out, so its on-field effect probably won't be relevant ever. However, it has an interesting in-hand effect where you can discard it and a Necros spell as a quick effect during either player's main phase to lock your opponent out of the extra deck during the phase. It's unfortunate that this is so restrictive. If it was for the turn, maybe this card would actually be pretty good. But unless you open with this card when your opponent's going first and you can lock them out of their sole main phase, normally they'll just be able to go into the battle phase and then be free to play during main phase 2. So this card doesn't actually accomplish much aside from how you could chain this to like a Shaddoll Fusion or something like that. Because of how little play this card has seen, its only 2 versions came out in Crossed Souls, and we're seeing it hit some absurd prices, with the ultimate rares up at $30 to $35, and then even the secrets at $13 to $15 with very few quantities available. This is definitely something that you guys want to try and offload wherever possible, because it's something that I don't see the Necros deck ever running, even if it does become meta relevant again. Next up, let's take a look at Emblema Oath. So this card is a key piece for the centur-ion archetype. It places a centur-ion monster from your deck to your spell trap zone as a continuous trap card, or it gets you a centur-ion spell or trap. So the centur-ion deck is something that has been getting a lot of attention recently, ever since YCS Niagara, when Pack went undefeated with this deck during Swiss. And I think it is definitely more than just a fluke. We've seen a decent amount of centur-ion lists running around from online play, and even at the regional level. I believe a big thing is that the deck gives up minimal draws to Fuwalos and Perulia since it summons from the back row a ton. Of course, they have a ton of ways to draw into hand traps, and of course, Cosmic Blazar Dragon is a crazy card. Now that said, Emblema Oath has 2 printings. It was an Ultra in Valiant Smashers, and then it got a secret rare reprint in the 2024 tins. When the tins came out, both versions had fallen down to around $8 to $10, which is around where Trudea and Primera had fallen to as well. Now, however, with all of the attention that centur-ion has gotten, we've actually seen both versions of Oath jump up to $20 each, which is actually around where the card's price was prior to that reprint coming out. It seems like a pretty good call for those of you that decided to pick it up, since with that reprint just having come out, it probably won't be reprinted again for quite some time. Hopefully you picked up this card already if you are wanting to play the deck, since I don't see the cards coming down in price really anymore until Crossover Breakers comes out in December. Speaking of crossover breakers, the next card I want to look at is Artifact Lancia. So this card's a pretty simple hand trap. You can tribute it from your hand or field during your opponent's turn, and for the rest of the turn, neither player can banish cards. Now in the OCG, this card is actually a really important side deck card because of the Malice deck. Malice are the second best deck in the OCG after Ryziel, and they want to banish all of their monsters so that they can be summoned back out. Lancia is effectively just like a turn skip against the deck. In the OCG, this card can be searched with 7th Ascension if you're running number C102 as well, but even then, most OCG lists are choosing to run Lancia at 3. Here in the TCG, we don't know if the whole package here will be used, we don't have Artifact Scythe that we can search, and we don't know just how strong Malice will be here compared to there, but it seems like Malice will still be pretty strong, so everyone is expecting to need to run Lancia here as well. Thankfully, Lancia did get a reprint in Rarity Collection 1, so most versions of it are pretty accessible. Personally, I really like the secret rares. I think they look really clean. However, it's the quarter century secret rare version of Lancia that has been bought out. This card was down at around $10 to $15 when Rarity Collection 1 had first settled down in price, but it's among the cards to get bought out, and we now see it at $30 each on TCG Player. If you guys have watched my market watches for a while, you'll know that I'm going to recommend moving those quarter century printings at their hyped up price, and go ahead and just pick up something like the collector's rare or the secret rare for yourself to use instead. Something that looks really clean, but is going to cost you just $1 per copy instead. Up next, I want to briefly take a look at Full Armored Utopic Ray Lancer. This card is a rank 4 Xyz monster that requires 3 level 4 monsters, but you can also make it on top of a rank 4 or lower Xyz by discarding a spell or trap card. This card is something that aims to help the Ryziel deck win the game in the battle phase. It can make your opponent's monsters lose 500 attack, it can negate the effects of all monsters your opponent controls that are in attack position right now, and if it destroys an opponent's monster in battle, you can detach a material from this card to have it attack again. So over in the OCG, of course, the Ryziel deck is basically a tier 0 to 0.5 strategy, and it seems that most of the extra decks over there are choosing to run this card as their game ender. I think that early on, players looked at number 70 Malevolent Sin, but I think that Utopic Ray Lancer helps to push for damage much more easily, especially if you happen to combine it with something like Dugaris to double its attack points. Utopic Ray Lancer is a relatively new card. It just came out in Battles of Legend Terminal Revenge as a secret rare, and it wasn't particularly difficult to pull. Because of that, there isn't too much movement in its price. We've seen it go from being like a 50-cent card to now being $2 to $3. Just in case, I go ahead and try to pick up a copy or two of this card for yourself to use if you are interested in playing Ryziel, since Ryziel's definitely going to be one of the best decks in the game, and you're going to want to have access to this card. So here's a card we've had our eyes on for a little bit. It's Millennium Onk. So we had a whole bunch of Exodia support cards come out in the Infinite Forbidden, which doesn't actually revolve around drawing all 5 pieces of Exodia, but rather bringing out the new unstoppable Exodia Incarnate Fusion monster, which can search for Obliterate, negate a spell or trap card, and also gain a ton of attack points to attack your opponent for a bunch of damage. For the most part, this deck is just a really fun deck for players that want to say that they're playing Exodia in 2024, However, the deck has actually seen some regional tops, and I believe a YCS top as well. It's able to run Secret Village of the Spellcasters to catch people off guard, and it can be pretty cool. The deck, however, got a really important piece of support recently with the Heart of the Blue Eyes, a monster that gives the deck an additional way to search for Millennium Onk that came out in Rage of the Abyss, so it helps to make the Exodia deck a little bit more consistent. Obviously, I don't think that the deck is going to be meta-relevant or top tier or anything like that, but as far as fun decks for your locals go, I think this is a pretty cool thing that you can play. That said, we've seen both the secret and ultra rare printings of Millennium Onk trending upwards over the last month or two. These cards were down at around $5 each because this was one of the worst cards to pull in your secret rare slot out of the Infinite Forbidden, but they're just double that now, sitting at around $10. This card shouldn't be reprinted until the 2025 tins, but it's definitely something that may have been easy to overlook and throw to the side if you were opening Infinite Forbidden looking for Fiendsmith engravers, so double check your holo book to see if you have any of these lying around. And finally, the last card I want to talk about for today is Clockwork Knight. Now, this is a card that's actually been pretty pricey ever since its release. It's a really niche continuous spell card that turns all monsters on the field into machines, and it can also be banished from your graveyard to search for an Earth machine from your deck. This card has seen play in, of course, the Earth Machine deck, as well as Cyber Dragons, but it's never really been a meta-relevant card. However, it has just one printing from Battles of Legend Crystal Revenge, and it was a short printed card in that set, so it's always been a little bit on the pricier side. Just recently, we had confirmed to be coming in Supreme Darkness a new Link 1 monster that is also called Clockwork Knight, but it has a K at the beginning of Knight. It requires a non-Link machine monster with 1000 or less attack points to make, but it's a searcher for Clockwork Knight, and it can also let you tribute another one of your machines to special summon back a machine with 1000 or less attack points from your graveyard. Now, I don't know a crazy amount about the Earth Machine deck. I assume that both versions of Clockwork Knight are going to be good in the deck. My friend is also talking about using the cards in Cyber Dragons, since you can turn Cyber Dragon Core into the Link 1, and Clockwork Knight allows you to contact fuse into Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon to clear your opponent's board extremely easily. Now, Clockwork Knight has always been around a $10 card, not exactly the cheapest card for something so niche. When the Link 1 was revealed, this card had jumped up to around $18 to $20 each for a little bit there, but it has since then cooled off to just under the $15 mark. This is something I'd probably want to stay away from. I feel like it's due to be reprinted in another Battles of Legends set, or maybe in an OTS tournament pack. Some sort of reprint set closer to when Supreme Darkness releases the new Link 1 here in the TCG. Alright guys, that is all we have for today's episode. Definitely a bunch of random things that we're talking about today. I feel like there wasn't really a pattern or a theme to what I was talking about. It's just kind of whatever's happening on the market. Of course, we do have the Quarter Century Bonanza set that's coming out in just a couple of weeks, so hopefully we will be finding out a little bit more about the cards from there in the next little while. I just saw earlier this morning that the QCR version of Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning is coming out. I'm super excited for that because that's one of my favorite cards of all time. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.